This drill is trail arm stop sign. So I've got the disc catcher out, and this time I've just taped a foam noodle to it so we can kind of have a better idea of exactly where it's pointing. What I tend to see, a lot of golfers have a scoop or an early release down at the bottom, and what I've found over the last few years is that it tends to be more of the trail arm, so right arm for a right-handed golfer, that creates that problem. And so just trying to motorcycle and get a flat-ish left wrist at impact doesn't always fix the problem, because then the right arm sabotages it. So if you have that scoop or early release, you either have to train more control with the left arm so the right arm doesn't mess it up, or you need to train that right arm to work properly. Because as long as the right arm is sabotaging your efforts, you're gonna struggle with the early release or scoop miss pattern, which is typically fat and thin contact and more of a pull start line, or potentially leaving the face open. So the pull comes more from the path getting left from that early release of the right side, or you can leave the face open and hit more of a weak push off to the right. So pulls, push fades, fat thin. If you struggle with that, there's a good chance you've got some right arm training or trail arm training that would help. So the trail wrist stop sign is basically, it's very similar to the finger release, but I'm going to put more of the emphasis after impact instead of right at impact. So with the finger release, I focus on keeping the extension of that right arm or the right wrist as I go into impact and just beyond. So basically seeing how the fingers are pointing behind. The stop sign is focusing mostly on the rotation of the forearm while still keeping that extension. What I find that a lot of golfers do trying to break the habit of an early release is they try to keep the extension of the wrist, but the direction that they're using the wrist is more going under like this and trying to keep the extension pointed at the target like that, as opposed to letting it rotate. What that looks like is when I put a club in my hands, is if I keep the extension and go more under it like this, you can see that the club starts coming up very quickly and the bottom of the arc is behind the golf ball. So even though my practice swing, I have a good amount of extension there, when I apply speed, it's going to bottom out behind the ball and have more of a fat, thin contact pattern to it. In order to get the bottom of the swing forward, I need to work on this lead wrist stop sign pattern, or sorry, the trail wrist stop sign pattern. So I'm going to get more of that rotation feeling, like that right wrist is covering and it's almost pointing at the target in a stop sign movement, kind of like that. Similar to the shake hands with the target line, but exaggerating it a little bit more. Now I'm making sure that I'm not getting it from the shoulder, so I'm not turning my hand and letting this arm fly away. I'm reaching out towards the target, but through kind of the inside of the shoulder blade. Once you have that feeling, you can do either single arm training or 9-3 or 3/4 or full swings. So with the single arm training, I'm going to try to get that feeling of more that right arm extending through, but that wrist rotating through more like that. So keeping the extension as it rotates through. And what you'll see is from the face on video, that'll have a look like it has really good extension and width on the follow through, as opposed to if I tried to extend the wrist but was still coming more up. So if I tried to keep the extension of the wrist really holding back the flip, but I was working more up, you could see that it's going to be virtually impossible to be strong enough to resist that movement. And even if I did, the bottom of the swing is still going to be behind the golf ball because of the direction that my arm or my hand path is swinging. So let's do another good one where we're going to get that stop feeling more in that follow through. So I'm getting really good arm extension and I'm feeling like that hand rotates over more like that. Next, I'm going to try it in more of a 9-3 version. So I'm going to bring it and I'm just gonna allow the left hand to support that movement of the right hand. And you'll see as I do this, I'm tending to have a little bit more of a lower launch than if I had more of a scoop pattern. That's a good sign that I'm doing that trail wrist properly. I'll be able to get the launch back when I take bigger swings and add more of a bracing component. So now we'll move it up to about 3/4. So a little late on that one, but what you'll see from the video is that I still got the bottom of the swing forward, hit the ball pretty solidly, just didn't quite get the face closed, so flared it a little bit off to the right. Now we'll go close to full swing, and I'm still trying to feel that arm extension, keeping the wrist hinged and letting that right arm rotate after impact, so that it feels like my palm is facing more towards the target. This is similar to a lot of the other trail arm release drills or hinge and hold kind of 9-3 feelings, where I'm keeping that extension, and instead of just trying to hold back the flip, I'm redirecting it with more of a rotational movement. So pretty solid one there, getting that good arm extension in the follow through. If you struggle with more of a trail arm scoop or early release, you can use the disc catcher, you can use the finger release, or you can use this idea of more of the trail arm stop sign in order to ultimately solve that right arm problem down at the bottom.